is a soft hackle Callibaetis. Like I was just talking earlier, I came across that one someplace and I thought it looked interesting, especially with having, let's go through the components, right? It's TMC 3769, too extra heavy because it's a soft hackle subsurface, okay? Any wet fly hook is going to work for you. I happen to like the 3769s, but you know, if you want something else, go for it. Okay, tail, nothing more. I don't know, I hope it's in focus. I don't know where its focus is.
Mallard or wood duck?
No, that's wood duck. It's just wood duck tail. In fact, I can get this other one out here. Where did the other one go? Here it is. So you can see that it is wood duck. This is, you really don't want to use this side of your wood duck. You would use all of the other side for your tail. And it's just a few fibers for the tail. I say 100 times over, I don't think the fish can count, you know. For the body, goose biot, this one has to be from Trout Hunter. They're Callibaetis color. If you have something you prefer better, go for it, you know, for the Callibaetis. It's kind of a grayish,
Tanny gray.
kind of a greenish tan gray. I'll pass that around in a second for all of you to see it. For the thorax, as I said, the original recipe called for a tan ice dubbing. I prefer SLF. This happens to be the hare's ear color. That's a personal preference. I prefer the hare's ear color. I don't know if that's coming out clear. I got my thumb underneath the words hare's ear. I'm hoping it works. But it's just SLF. Any of the dubbings that are similar to that. The underwing, which is a short little wing. I don't know if you can really see it here. It's just barely visible inside the hackle. Is nothing more than some Zelon in a dun color. Okay, soft hackle is just that. It's a soft hackle. I found this neck a bunch of years ago, and I really like it because I can get 2 or 3 flies off of it instead of having to use just some short stuff. I'll pass this stuff around for you guys to see.
Is that a hen?
This is actually, yeah, it's a hen. If you look at the tips, you can see they're rounded, so it's a hen. But what I like about it is, look at the length of the feather. You know, you can get at least 2 flies off of that, maybe 3. Because you're only using 1 to 1.5 turns of the soft hackle, so you can get a lot more than just 1 feather per fly. So I happen to like this stuff. So let me go pull out my stuff, and while the stuff is being passed around, I'll start tying one. Caramel, okay, camel, which is a nice deeper brown, or you can take and use the tobacco brown. I don't think it really matters that much. It's just the head. It's which one would you like to use. It's not that important. Start the fly at about the 2/3 mark. Okay, grab a few fibers of the wood duck, and I don't think the number matters that much. This fish can't count. You want the tail to be just about 1 hook shank long, maybe a little less, it won't hurt a thing. You don't want it too long. Okay, the biot. Now, one of the things about the biot, and I had these pre-soaking before I came here, is, I know I've mentioned this before, if you're going to use biot, to keep them from splitting on you, you should soak them. And what I like to do is, as I'm pulling everything on, I'll pull up my biot first and fold them into a paper towel that's been moistened and just let them sit there for a little while. And then when I'm ready to tie, the biot is soft. Sometimes if they're too dry, they end up splitting on you. Now, there's 2 ways to tie in the biot. Can you see the notch where my fingernail is pointing? Can you see the notch on this side? Can you see that? Okay. That notch will tell you, if the notch is to you and you fold and wrap it, you will end up with what, if you looked at the photograph, where the ribs are actually standing up and you actually have a physical large rib. If it's tied in the other way with the rib away from you, which is what I like to do, you will end up with a rib that is just a darker color of the biot itself. Okay? So, whichever one you prefer, I don't think the fish care. I got this one for the stand-up, so that's all right. I'll stand it up so you guys can see what I mean about. See the rib occurring? See the fuzz standing?
You want that on this
You
one?
can.
Either way you're saying.
Your preference.
It's your preference. If you like that, then do it. If you don't like it, here, let me take it off and put it on the other. Let me do the other one.
It doesn't hold water or any
No.
heavier.
So
It's a
it's
subsurface fly
What
anyway,
happens with
so.
some of those, when you first start though, you should get the rib and then start covering over it.
I don't use a rib on this thing.
No, I mean the standing rib on the bind.
Yeah. Now, I had that with the notch facing me. Let's take the notch facing away from me.
Notch up or down, whichever.
The notch is facing away, if you can
Is
see
it
it.
up now?
It would be up as you're referring to it, right? And so what you end up with is
Smooth body.
a smooth body.
Yeah, you can see that smooth edge covers up that rib.
Yeah.
Right.
As you go around that direction.
Right.
I super glue those too.
Yeah, you beat me to it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would normally do is either put super glue or a head cement down underneath it so that it's glued to the thread. Remember, I put a layer. Normally I don't talk about a layer of thread, but in this case, under biot, you want a layer of thread so that it was glued all the way around the hook to the thread. So you do want to look for having super glue or head cement covering the entire hook shank and then wrapping your biot on it. Come on, guy. There we go. Okay. Okay. Then at this point, we place the dubbing. The wing will come just before the soft tackle. So a little of the ice dubbing. You don't want too large of a thorax, but you want a little bit of the thorax. What happens is the thorax helps hold the soft tackle fibers out a little further from the body instead of actually having them tight against the body. So you end up with a little bit of a ball here. Not too big. And at this point, we're going to take our Zelon. I already got a hank of Zelon. Now it's a pretty thin wing, so this actually, let me get to the Zelon here. You can see the Zelon has all these various hanks, if you would, small hanks. What I do is I actually pull off a hank, then I open it up and only use half of it because it's way too thick for the fly. So I'm just going to use about half a hank.
Future fly tire.
Okay. That's all you want. You want that to be less than the length of the body, but longer than the thorax. You can see how short that is. Okay. And I like to kind of spread it a little bit with my thumbnail. I happen to think it's more of a drowned Callibaetis with an unfurled wing than it is the emerger. I don't know. You know, you may consider it the other way around. I don't know. Okay. And then prepare the soft tackle by just folding it back. I always like to measure it to make sure that I'm getting to a section of the hackles that are actually just about to the bend of the hook or a little longer. So I want to have these fibers. These are all too short for this particular hook. So I'm going to nip that off. Clean it up just a little bit. I'm going to tie that in by the tip right in front of the wing. Okay, either finger fold or scissor fold, doesn't matter, whichever seems to work best for you. I use both depending upon what I'm doing. Okay, and you're going to want 1 to 1.5 turns. I got one fiber giving me a bad time. There we go. And there's 1.5. That's all you need from a hackle standpoint. Force them all back, create a nice little head. And at this point, whip finish off the fly. And then after you've known the whip finish, you can either add head cement to seal it or just depend upon your whip finish. And there's your Callibaetis Soft Hackle. So you get a lot of movement from the hackle, a little bit from the tail, and that wing, just again, it's really not predominant, but it's enough of a sparkle to look like what I'm going to call an immature wing. It hasn't unfolded. So I don't know if it's an emerger or a drowned Callibaetis. Don't know which one. But I fished a lot of Callibaetis, and in the surface film, they seem to, or just slightly below the surface, trout seem to take them readily if they're not necessarily taking dries. So, you know, nymphs may be working, but this also works, especially if they're not on the dries yet. So that's the Callibaetis. Super, super simple fly.